Hello, welcome back to Worm Lots, where we harness the God-given power of compost worms to transform organic waste into amazing living fertilizer. Today we are opening up one of our young bins. It's called our Incinerator bin, and we are opening it up because it's been a while since we've been in this bin. It's actually been about 28 days, so 4 weeks. And this bin was is part of our football season worm challenge. And so at 28 days, this has been more than an extended bye week, if you will, for these worms. And so I'd love to see how they're doing. Obviously, this is not ideal. It's not ideal to let a worm bin go this long, especially at this age, without giving it some feeding. But we'll see how they did overall. I'm really curious to see how it's looking. The bedding that we used in this this bin is we used a sawdust bedding. And it actually feels decently moist toward the bottom. So I'm happy to see that. But let's see if we see any worms. I am seeing some flies. I think they're fungus gnats, if I had to guess. So we'll just have to put up with those for the time being. But I'm checking the corners to see if I see the worms. And there is decent moisture. It actually does feel somewhat moist to the touch. But you don't want the bin to go this long without some food. So in addition to just checking and seeing how the bin is doing overall, I would like to see I would like to feed the worms. So we will do that after we try to make sure that there are worms remaining in the bin. Oh, we got a worm right there. So right there in the corner. This is one of our red wigglers. And right there you can see this curious little guy. This is one of our isopods. And then also in the corner you can see that little fly there. I believe that's a fungus gnat. So we've got some diversity in the bin, some diversity of creatures, all working to help with the decomposition. And so this, I'd like to point your attention to this coconut shell. I've used it as a marker to this point to mark the last area that was fed. So we last fed in this corner. I'd like to dig down and see if there's been any moisture retained there more than any of the other areas. Maybe there will be some more worm activity there as well. Yep, got a worm right there. It just looks like it snuck away. So yeah, we got some worm activity down there. So the bin seems to be doing well. But one of the things that we were really trying to do was we were trying to work on increasing the frequency of the feedings and just increasing the and the way we were planning to do that was to just make sure that the worms had basically a regular supply of food. So we wanted to make sure that the microbes in the bin continued to multiply at a prolific rate, so that the bin could continue to or could increase its throughput, right? The more microbes are in the bin, the more contributors you have to break down the food waste. So it's not just the worms working on it, but as the bin itself continues to be populated by microbes, that means that even substrate like this would be teeming with microbes, and those microbes would also assist in breaking down the food waste. But without the feeding, without more food being added, it does put a little bit of a limitation on the population of microbes that you can support in the bin. So I'd like to boost that back up by doing a little bit of a feeding. I do have some of these fungus gnats hanging around. They're not particularly hard to kill because they just kind of, one, I think the temperatures have kind of dropped down a little bit, so they're not as active as they normally would be in the middle of the summer. They're a little bit sluggish and just kind of waiting around. But let's go ahead and feed this bin. So I was doing a clockwise rotation of the feedings. So last time we fed in this corner, so this time we'll feed in this one. And I have a sweet food that I think will get them nice and excited, and that is the pulp, this pulpy residue from some prunes that I used to make prune juice. So I'm going to go ahead and take those in my hand. We'll dig down and we'll put them in there nice and sweet. I don't want to add too much because I don't want to overfeed the bin, but I think that number of prunes should be enough. I'm going to bury it to prevent the flies from just getting into it and making a mess of it. We'll cover this back up. All right, and now let's put our cover back over the top. I'm going to put a little bit more substrate over this corner, just again to provide a bit of a buffer from the pests. And then we're going to leave the coconut shell right there. And I'm hoping that the prune pulp will be enough to kind of get this bin jump started. I just had one of those fungus gnats land right on top of the coconut shell, but you can see that the isopods seem to be doing well. We added in some isopods when we started this bin. I really enjoy the diversity that they bring, and they also really do help to break down some of these woodier materials. So I'm hoping that they will also help with the breakdown of this sawdust. But I'm really liking the sawdust as a material. It really is. It's nice, and it's kind of softened a little bit with the moisture that is in here. And the bin does not feel too moist. It feels nice, and I think it's a little bit just slightly drier than we want it to be. It is a wrung out sponge, but it's just on the verge of being a little bit dry. So I might spray just a touch in here just to get the bin nice and moist, but not too much. It's actually really encouraging to see that even though we left this bin here for 4 weeks, we took 4 weeks off from this fledgling bin, that it does seem to still be doing, just fine. So, all right, we got the spray down. We don't want to make it too moist, but we want to get it moist enough that it's going to be nice for the microbes and nice for our worms. And the key to remember when you have a worm bin is that you're really trying to make the environment welcoming to microbes. If it's welcoming to microbes, it should be welcoming to the worms. And we're looking really to proliferate aerobic microbes. So I want to keep that in mind, because if your bin is anaerobic, then that can actually be very detrimental to your worms. So we want the bin to be appealing to aerobic microbes, and one of the ways that we're doing that is by making sure that the substrate is nice and airy, and I think it has that nice fluffy feel to it. The moisture level helps to keep it that way as well. If your moisture in your bin is too soggy, then you end up squeezing out air pockets and creating anaerobic pockets that are not ideal for the worm bin. So right now this one is looking really great. We've got the leaves in there. Hopefully the isopods will help to break those down alongside the worms. But yeah, there's just a little touch up, check in to get the bin moving again. I'm hoping that as the worms and as the microbes take hold of the food there, that we'll be able to restart this bin, get it nice and hungry again as the microbes proliferate, and then we'll be able to add more food more frequently. That's my hope. But again, we want to try to do so in a way that is controlled and is going to make sure that the worms are able to outcompete any other critters in the bin. Maybe with the exception of the isopods. I don't mind if they have a field day, but we're really trying to make sure that the environment favors the worms and their proliferation. So and not that of pests. So we're not trying to grow flies here. I've done my share of that, so time to learn my lessons. So thank you so much for watching. I think we've got a fly here that I can take out. Yeah, so these are fungus gnats, and I've become familiar with them, unfortunately, because or I've been able to distinguish them, unfortunately, because I've had so much experience with fruit flies and fungus gnats. So if you're in your worm bin journey and you're having problems with flies, just take it as a learning experience, and I hope that you are also gathering things from your experience, things to do differently. If you have questions, feel free to reach out. I will try to provide any experience that I have, but I've had many helpful comments from viewers who have been able to share their experience with me, and it has really helped a lot. So I'd love to be able to give back to anyone who is in a similar boat. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. This is our Incinerator bin that allows us to say bye to food scraps. And we've got some of our kitchen scraps in there from us making some homemade prune juice. So we'll give that a little bit of time, see if the worms make it over there. We saw some in this corner of the bin. Hopefully they'll be able to migrate over and get to work on the pulp and leftovers from the prunes. All right, we'll catch you next time.